Hello, and welcome to For Book's Sake. I am Heather Roberts.
I am Veronica Adams, and we are 1852 Media.
Yes, indeed. And today we are going to be talking about keeping up with the Joneses in publishing.
Yeah.
So, the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, if you've never heard it before, I don't know why you wouldn't have, but if you've never heard it before, it's essentially keeping up with what, the new trendy thing to be doing is. Your neighbor gets a brand new car, you want to go out and get a brand new car.
Right.
Even if you are not in a financial place to afford said brand new car.
The neighbor gets a boat, you want a boat. The neighbor gets a vacation condo, you want a vacation condo.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is keeping up with the Joneses. Yes. And that's what we're talking about today and how it applies to publishing. Because I think this is a very valid topic because there are some cool things that some authors are doing right now. Totally cool. And other authors are like, I want to do that. Yeah. And can you? Of course you can. Should you? That is the better question that you need to ask yourself.
Isn't it though? Like, yeah. that was the whole point of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, maybe we look inside what's going on in our own houses and shore up and make sure that there's security and good foundations there first before we stretch to do what the neighbors are doing,
Right. So, for example, what made me think of this topic is there are some authors right now who are releasing, 5 different versions of covers for one title or one series. And these are gorgeous.
Wanting to have alternate covers and stuff, I really do, but 5 seems like so many to me. On a personal level, not even marketing advice. That's just maybe too many.
I know of one author, and this is no shade to this author because she clearly, her brand is at the point where she can do this. And, and she's successful at doing it. But she has obviously the original cover, right? Like the spicy cover.
Yeah.
And then there's the sort of alternate discreet cover, which I don't love the word discreet, but here we are. So you know what I'm talking about. Discreet cover that doesn't have like man chest or couple or whatever on top of it. Right. Object cover.
Right.
And then she has just black covers. So, which allegedly I had heard through the grapevine that she does this for people, especially men, who want to purchase her titles and don't want it to be really like overtly anything. It just wants it to look like a plain book.
Girl, you've just broken a whole world wide open for me. Are we going to start marketing on the DL to cis het men who want to read romance?
Evidently. There's a market for it.
Well, clearly.
Or not just cis het men, but people who really don't want anybody to know what they're reading and just getting a black cover.
Right. Well, that was the point of the discreet cover originally, right? Was to sort of be less forward in terms of, what you're holding and is public facing while you're sitting there reading the book.
But the discreet covers have turned into a little bit more of you can still tell what they are.
They're feminine.
They're very feminine. You can tell what they are. And so these are just plain black covers with gold foil writing on them, which frankly, I would love an entire collection of a series of that. That sounds amazing.
It's very minimalist and super aesthetic. Yeah.
Correct. I really love that.
Sure.
So I can see why it would appeal to more than just somebody who doesn't want, people to know what they're reading. They like the look of it. They like it on their shelves like that. I get it. I feel you. And then there's special edition covers if you're going to a book signing or something like that.
Right.
And so you have a special edition cover for that book signing. And then you have the hardback cover.
Yes.
So here we are. We're down the list of, what was that, 4 or 5?
That's 4 at least. 5
different covers.
So we've got the original cover. We've got the discreet cover. We've got the plain black aesthetic, safe for everybody cover. Now we've got the
hardcover.
The hardback cover.
And then a special edition, gold
special
foil.
Edition makes it 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's before you do maybe some sort of your original cover has an actual model on it, and then there's an alternate cover somewhere that's illustrated maybe.
Right.
You
could do that. I've also seen the hardcover where the hardcover has the dust jacket is like the original cover, and then you can take it off and it's the discrete cover. So I've seen that. Like there's so many different variations for covers, edging. We've talked about sprayed edges before.
Yes.
I've now seen there's an author coming out with a cloth bound version of her series, and they are gorgeous.
That is so fun.
They are so pretty. Gold foil. They're like pink cloth bound. They have sprayed edges. Oh my God.
This is going to be impossible to keep up with, though. Like,
that's the point. So
unless these are already a well-established mid-6 or even 7-figure author, like these are just overwhelming choices and things to pursue, and like
that's the point, right?
No shade to authors by any stretch of the imagination, but they tend to be more creative than business-minded anyway. So
yeah.
I mean, you have to be aware of whether or not you're going to get a return on something, whether it's a good investment to pursue this particular outlet for marketing your books. Like,
now I did see what the author is doing the cloth bound versions.
Yeah.
She has a pre-order up for them. So it seems that she's doing them in a pre-order situation. And isn't like making them and then going to try to distribute them, which is, I think, probably the more conservative route to go, a little safer. But at the same time, other authors are going to see this and want to emulate those things.
Sure.
And I get that. But you have to remember that these authors have the brand power. They have the readers who are going to purchase these special editions in however many iterations they come in. And you may not have that reader loyalty base yet. So you may end up stuck with 7 different iterations of your title that you can't move. And how out thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Sure.
Because these things are not going to be cheap.
Well, you know? I'm hard pressed to imagine a scenario where a mid-list author could keep up with this kind of pressure to produce alternates of just a single new release.
Yeah.
And actually have the money to go this deep into it, just based on what they're earning as a mid-list author, right? Because there are so many other costs involved in running a publishing business and writing for a living.
I get why you'd want to do these extras. I 100% understand that. But at the same time, you have to calibrate your expectations and just understand, maybe I'm not there yet, you know, like, or do a Kickstarter campaign.
Love a Kickstarter campaign for stuff like this, especially.
Yeah. Ton of work. Don't let anybody lie to you and say that Kickstarters are simple and easy and just throw it out there. Don't let that person lie to you. They are lying out their mouth. Kickstarters are an epic pain in the ass and a shit ton of work. I don't think I can be any clearer.
Heather loves a Kickstarter campaign, though.
I do love a Kickstarter campaign. I do. They're great for things like this. They're great to do special edition hardcover, things like that. Then on the front end, you're only doing costs for like the cover design and the you're getting a sample from the printer. So you're not ordering them until after the Kickstarter is over. So you have, you're not putting out all of those costs on the front end.
You're not investing in an inventory that's going to sit in your office for all time
and
or until you attend enough signing events to unload it.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a great option for people who don't want to, put out that money from the front. I mean, what Brandon Sanderson's doing a Kickstarter.
Yes, he is.
Did you see $42 million? Like, I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't. I have no words.
That's Brandon Sanderson's scale.
I mean, he's doing leather bound, apparently. Leather bound editions.
I'm sorry. I'm married to a Brandon Sanderson super fan. There is nothing you can tell me about this campaign that I didn't already know. Okay. Like, I've heard about it in this year and this year. No, I'm good. I am Brandon Sanderson out, if I'm honest.
I hear you. But yeah, I mean, my point is that authors at every level are doing Kickstarter campaigns.
Exactly.
Brandon Sanderson doesn't need to use Kickstarter. He just uses it because he chooses to as, his appropriate method. And I bet Kickstarter just loves the fuck out of him for that.
I'm sure they do.
Because you have to remember their fees and costs that Kickstarter gets when they have a large creator like that come on. So the Kickstarter is great for mid-level too, for even just beginning. I've seen, people fund different things. I will say, this is as an aside, not really talking about, but for like funding for an audiobook or something like that, I don't love a Kickstarter campaign for that. That's more of a GoFundMe situation rather than a Kickstarter situation. But we can get into that in another episode. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I've heard that is a
Ladies and gentlemen,
popular.
that is a question that has come up for Heather before. If she's gone out of her way to mention it, it's like that's been percolating in her brain for a while now.
I've had that. I've had that question. I just feel like I need to put that out there. Had that. But yeah, there's a lot of things like that in the publishing industry.
For sure.
Like the keeping up with the Joneses piece, I mean.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to see other authors have the success. We love the success for them, right?
Yeah, of course.
But you as maybe a smaller author, you're looking at it and you're like, how the hell do I get there? And there's no easy answer to that. There really isn't. And that's the hardest part, because you can write really great books and not have the same level of success as other people who have perhaps better marketing or had better luck or timing upon their releases.
Timing sometimes really makes a huge difference. Honestly.
I totally agree. Agree.
It's one of those things. This entire theory applies to so many different things in running a publishing business and being a writer who self-publishes. Or even, for those of you who are trad, who are doing some of your own marketing or supporting the marketing efforts of your publisher.
Yeah.
This growth does not happen overnight. And it takes multiple books. It takes multiple launches. It takes some backlist sales pushes. It takes newsletter marketing and growing your subscribers list. I mean, so many things that you have to do in addition to just writing a good quality book.
Right. Takes constant grinding. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah,
constant grinding. And being willing to throw yourself out there again and again and again, sometimes into the void of nothing, until the void of nothing turns into into something.
Right.
And a lot of people can't, like, they don't want to do that or don't feel comfortable doing that. Mm-hmm. I get it. I'm not here to say like, that's not, it's easy. Right. It's not easy. So it's just, I hate when good authors sometimes look at these things coming up in the publishing industry and think like, oh my God, like, sort of feeling bad about themselves because they're not there yet. Yeah. And I hate that, because just because you're not there yet doesn't mean you won't ever get there. And you need to enjoy where you are. Remember where you were, a year ago. Did you it's sort of like weight loss, right? Like,
or any other long-term goal, right? Like when you're doing like financial planning and saving for something, like whatever.
Exactly. Right. I think about, just with my personal life, like I don't necessarily feel, comfortable and secure. I'm not where I want to be, right? Like for certain financial goals and things like that.
Yeah.
But when I get frustrated, I look back, at where I was 5 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we've made strides, right? Uh-huh. Like we've made strides. And I feel like that's important to do. You have to look back and be like, okay, no, I have made strides. Right. I have gotten to this point. And it's good that you're not comfortable, because it means you're still grinding, you're still going, you're still, you still have that goal in mind.
Yeah.
But absolutely. You have to take a moment to appreciate where you are too, because otherwise you have that never satisfied feeling, and that's not good. You need to occasionally be satisfied. You need to, wanting more is great, but you need to also appreciate where you are. And like allow
it's really
yourself
difficult
that.
For some people to do.
It's difficult for me to do. I get it. I'm here. I am
But
with all of those people.
it, in books specifically, I think
Yeah.
about like the author who's never been to a signing event and wants to get on the list and get a table at just one event,
Yeah.
right? Their very first book signing. Compare that to someone who is so well known as a brand that they are often invited to be an anchor to almost every signing event you can think of, at least
And
in a
they
specific genre, right?
yeah.
So there's a lot of room to travel in between those two places, and just because you're starting at the original author's position doesn't mean that someday you may not necessarily find
Yeah.
yourself much closer to or in the latter author's position. But
Absolutely.
it's a process. It's
A-
absolutely a process. It's not going to happen overnight.
And a lot of times it takes, one book or one series
Yeah,
to be your they call, the breakout series.
right.
And I use the most Rebecca Yarros as a good example for this.
Hmm.
Love Rebecca. Hi Rebecca, if you ever listen to this. And but no, but like Rebecca's been writing for a very, very long
Yes, she
time.
has.
I
She
think
has.
like 2011 and something like that. Like she's been writing for a long time, over a
Yeah,
decade, and publishing. And she was a very successful author.
commercially, right? Yeah.
Yeah, commercially speaking, successful author, definitely did well for herself, got some good deals, like was popular in the community and all of that. But she wasn't Rebecca Yarros that we currently know, right? She
Pre fourth
wasn't
wing and post
pre
fourth
fourth
wing.
wing, correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, people look at her, I guess I would think, like outside people
right.
not in the industry, like, oh, where'd this author come from? She came out of nowhere. No, she didn't. Like, no, she's been grinding
No,
for for fucking years.
go check out her backlist when you're done with fourth
Yeah.
wing. Like for real.
Right. She's been grinding for years,
Yeah.
and she got a great deal, and this book just happened to take off. It was great timing, it was great marketing. Her
Yes.
publisher put money behind the marketing in a way that, really helped catapult this
Yeah.
release. And the content was great. It was catchy. It was addictive. It was wonderful in that way. So, it was commercially marketable, okay? And it had the makings of this epic series, which is currently ongoing now. Okay. And that helped catapult her to the Rebecca Yarros that we know today. But let's not forget the decade that she was writing and releasing
Right.
books and, raising her family and doing all the things that you as an author, if you're listening now, are probably doing.
Right.
And, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. So, and even the success of Fourth Wing didn't happen overnight. Like,
No.
really. I mean, it was like, it was a building
It's been kind of a snowball,
explosion.
right? Like rolling
Yeah.
down the hill, like gathering
Hmm.
snow, growing.
Exactly. So I use her as a great example of how, you can't expect these things to just magically appear on your
Right.
lap, right? Like
Right.
they take time, they take effort, and it it can happen for you.
Sure. Of
And I
course
think
it
that
can.
that's the thing. It's the hope, right? It's that like dangling hope, like it can happen for you. But I also don't want you to obsess about it to the point where it's going to deter you from enjoying where you're at right now and do your best work right now.
Yep.
Because it's like compare what is that phrase? Comparison is the thief of joy. And
That's
it
what they
really
say.
is. It's true though. It's so true. When you start comparing yourself to other people and other authors and it just robs you of any potential successes that you could see in your
Mhm.
own brand. So that's my soapbox. That's my soapbox
No,
rant.
it's a good soapbox rant to have. And like I said, I think it applies to so many things in this particular industry. Like, you know, you, how many times have we had someone come to us for consultation or for service and they've never run an ad before? Like,
Yeah.
like everybody starts somewhere, right? And then maybe by the time they've gotten what they needed from us in terms of support, they're running ads and getting a really great rate of return on those. And they're ready to take that money and use it for something else,
Yeah.
something to grow their business with. And it's the same thing. You're
And
just
we love that for
never,
them.
of course we do. Always
Yeah.
love that for
Always
them.
love it for them. Yeah.
But it's a process, it's a long road, it's a journey, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
journey sometimes is as much fun or even more important than the destination.
Yeah. It's like go to
So
a book signing event. I know this is like a it's turned into a little self-help thing.
it's like an
But no, but for
inspirational,
real,
we're like inspirational speakers today.
we are. But it's important to step back sometimes and have those reflection moments. Like go to a book signing event and just think about, what am I getting out of this book signing event?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
how many people can I meet?
Right.
How many people can I, get a contact with?
Yeah.
How many people do I vibe with who like
Mm-hmm.
might actually be friends with?
Yeah.
How many people might I want to do some cross promotion with, even
Uh-huh.
if we don't like personally, like we're not going to be BFFs.
Yep.
That's cool, but maybe we can do some business
Yeah.
together. Go into it with a very open mindset, and it's amazing what you can come out of it with. If you go into it thinking like, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to be good enough,
Mm-hmm.
that's the energy you're going to be putting out. I know it sounds a little, like woo woo whatever, but it's true. When you
Yeah.
put out those vibes, it gives off a, standoffish quality vibe.
That's the same thing
So
about it's the same thing about envying others' success too. I mean, you're sort of
yeah.
energetically closing yourself off to success for yourself by, wishing for yourself things that other people have in that sort of jealous way, right? Like that's why
Yeah.
I look at the mean girls in our community in romance specifically, and I'm like, not it's not
Yeah.
really like there's something so very unattractive about that, right? And
It
like
totally.
if I am success, I don't really want to be associated with, that sort of envious, catty.
I want to uplift others,
Yes, a
I want
rising
to help.
tide, all boats, that whole thing,
Yeah, that
right?
whole
Like,
thing. There's a reason that these phrases are in our language.
I
But
know,
it's true because it's true. And there's a lot of people that talk about mindset, right? With
for
every single
sure.
industry, even
For
the financial
sure.
industry, with every industry, they talk about
Mhm.
mindset and like manifesting things. And
Yeah,
it, certainly if you just think something over and over and over, it's not going to just magically happen. Okay. You
no.
need to take actionable steps to like
Well,
get
that's
that to
isn't
occur.
that where the magic is
But
though? If you speak
yeah,
that truth to yourself enough, you will actually start automatically taking action toward
yes,
achieving it just because you've spoken the truth to yourself in such a way that you start to believe that it's possible for you.
correct.
That's the
And
magic.
that's the magic. That's the thing. So you have to keep putting those positive
Mhm.
things into your head that I am good enough. I can
Yeah.
do this. I can write X amount of words a week.
I
I
can't do
can,
8 alternate covers now, but I can do 2 for this release. Like,
right,
it's literally that kind of, you know,
right. That
opening those
mindset.
doors for yourself. Yeah.
If you're a terribly introverted person, hype yourself up before you go out into a book signing event.
Yeah.
I can go and meet 3 new people today.
Yep.
You don't need to make your goal insane. You just need to
Yeah.
start somewhere.
Yes. You
And
don't have to
that's
be as
the biggest
social as the
thing.
organizer. You just need to make a
Right.
few contacts.
Right. And start there and build up from there.
Right.
And it's amazing the amount of confidence that will grow inside of you when you start putting yourself out there and you get that positive
Yeah.
response. There's that whole we've started to implement it this year, just with ourselves, with my husband and I, and personal life and business life and things like that. There's a whole theory of, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically the art of no, or whatever,
Okay.
that where you are going to get a no. That is your whole goal. Your goal is to continue to ask for things that you want until you get a no. And
Okay.
or, until you get a yes, essentially, but expect a no.
Right.
And so, you just keep
You
asking
prepare
for
for the
things.
no. You're
Yeah,
prepared to do the additional work required to turn that no into a yes.
right. And you go and you just start asking for things that your business needs.
Mhm.
You go and start asking for whatever it is that you want. If you want to host a party, start
Yeah.
asking people to come. Expect the no, and maybe you'll get a few yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of people on TikTok that do this sort of practice in their life, and they've asked for, crazy weird things. Like I saw this one where the girl was like, she really wanted to talk on one of the speakers at a grocery store. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know what she said.
What a wildly
But
obscure and random thing to have on your list.
right? Very odd. Apparently, it's something she's always wanted to do. She didn't work at a grocery store, so she went into her grocery store and asked if she could use the loudspeaker I think, announce sales or something like that for them that day. And they said yes. And she got to do it. It's weird. It's a little out there, but it goes to prove that, if that's going to bring you joy,
right,
ask for it.
Yeah.
You don't know. What's the worst? That's the thing. What's the worst they can do? Say no? Get used to the no.
Yeah.
Be comfortable in the no. Because then when you do get a yes, you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is different. Like, all right, cool. And I think a lot of people have that fear of rejection, so that prevents them from moving to the next step.
Right.
They're just afraid, like, oh, I don't want to ask that author for a newsletter swap. Why? Oh, because then what if they say no? What if I'm bothering them? What if I'm
right? Right.
Ask.
No, I don't want to ask this event organizer to be put on the interest list for the next time the event is hosted. I don't want to ask, this anthology organizer if there are spots left for me to contribute. I don't want to ask,
Right. The list goes on.
Uh-huh.
So the worst they can say is no. And as long as you're asking in a respectful and professional way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking. So, I just think, you need to.
That's not just true. That's legal. That's legal too. I had a first year law school professor who told our entire 1L group that during orientations, like, the answer might be no, but it never hurts to ask.
It's so true.
Talking about something completely different, but
yeah,
I mean, advice actually,
but it's true. And there's a lot of people who, and I find myself in this too. I'm like, oh, that's just not going to work. They're never going to agree to that. Well, how do you know until you ask? Until you can try to work out a deal with whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you can, put that in your own life.
Well, and you might be surprised about the alternate opportunities that trying to open doors like that will actually create for you, because the answer to your immediate question may be no for a variety of reasons that are beyond your control or the person you're asking's control. Like, dates are closed or signups are full or, whatever. But just by asking, you put yourself in a position to perhaps receive some sort of alternate or backup or to just create a connection that does lead to a different opportunity in the future.
Like, I can't do it, but I know this guy might be able to.
Exactly. Or we have completely closed this opportunity, but I have another one coming that's a little bit different. Would you be interested in trying that instead? You just never know.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. What can come out.
And I think that's really great advice too, is to just encourage people to just, to just ask.
Ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. And keep an open mind with things. Be okay with the no. We tell our son this all the time. Be comfortable in rejection. Because if you're comfortable in rejection, and then, when that opportunity comes along, you'll know when to grab it.
Yep.
Because you know what it is when it's staring you in the face. So anyway, that's my don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. Be comfortable where you are and ask for things.
Right. Well, and pursue growth on your own timeline and in the scope that you can conceivably hold on to it, right? Because if you're publishing your 5th book and you're looking at someone who is literally doing 5 to 8 alternate covers for their 47th book,
right?
Those things don't scale the same. But that doesn't mean that you can't have an alternate cover for your 5th book. If you're making a profit already on your author business, set aside those funds and go get yourself an alternate cover.
Right.
License Photoshop and try to design your own if money's really tight.
That's how, I mean, I know some authors that test out 4 or
Uh-huh.
5 different versions of their cover in
Yeah.
Facebook ads before they even do a cover, put their cover up on Amazon.
Right.
They'll have a hold cover and then they'll test out different versions. And they're only able to do that because they've learned how to make covers
Yes.
themselves.
Yes. They do
And
their own covers.
they do their own covers. They can
And
go and make
sometimes
their
their own ads.
changes.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Changes and iterations and all of that.
Yep.
And yeah, that's incredibly valuable.
For
That's
sure.
if that's a skill that if you're going to pick up a skill, that's one to pick up because it's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
Until you can afford to have your own in-house cover designer,
Mm-hmm.
you might have to become the in-house cover designer if that's important to you,
Right.
right? If that's not super important to you, then you use the cover that you have and you use different other, ad
Mm-hmm.
copy and ad graphics to change up because those are
Right.
much more accessible to
Right.
change up to get the ads that you
Well,
want to perform the way you need them to.
and you might find too that the necessity of learning this skill to scale up your own attempts to keep up with the Joneses, right? To like add
Mm-hmm.
something new to your business and test covers or just design your own alternate cover. You find yourself learning cover design such that suddenly you have a side business that is tangentially related to
Sure.
your publishing business. We've had multiple clients who do cover design on the
I
side.
We have many clients who do editing on the side,
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
who do cover design on the side, formatting on the side,
Huh?
all sorts of different types of related
Who have
activities.
their own they have their own signing events. I mean,
Mhm.
we yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, who are event organizers,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. And so you find yourself in this weird position then, right? And you're just like, "Oh," but you have to be open to these opportunities.
Yeah.
I think about it like when in most professions, there is continuing education classes.
Don't
And
remind
like
me.
I'm not required to take them because
I am.
I'm a Maryland licensed attorney and they do not require CLEs, continuing legal education classes, to maintain
Meanwhile,
my license. Meanwhile,
Florida requires
Ver-
30 hours
yeah,
every second or third year.
yeah. So Veronica is required to take these classes. I am not, but I'm not actively practicing. Granted, Veronica's not either.
No, but my license is current and I like to have it active and in good standing in case I need it for some reason.
Correct. I too have an active license. I like to keep that active, but
Yeah.
if I were to jump back into the legal field, I would have to run and go take a ton of CLE classes,
Yeah.
whereas Veronica is a little bit, she wouldn't have to. She's
I
like
can
pretty,
literally put on my suit and walk into any
yeah,
courtroom and
yeah.
pro hoc vice or, go down to Florida and just be like, hey, I'm here. Here's my bar number.
She'd be good to go because she's been studying up for over the years. So the same thing in publishing. There isn't, education classes by a governing board of your state
Right.
or whatever,
Yes.
but there are
Maybe there
different
should be.
there should be. But there are different opportunities to go out and learn new skills that relate
Yeah.
to your business. And that's what we're talking about. Because if you just stay complacent with what you're doing, then you are going to continue to see the same or similar results. You have to keep learning new things, trying new things, be okay with failure, with rejection, with getting the no, because that's only going to let you learn things to get the yes that you want. So yeah, learning the new skill like Photoshop or finding something like a video editing. Maybe you're good at that. Maybe, I don't know, anything. Find something and start learning a new skill. Maybe it's Facebook ads or Amazon ads or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But learning those skills is really vital to keeping your business, rolling, and learning what is the new technology that's coming down. How can I apply this to my business in a legal and ethical way?
Right.
Because AI comes to mind. There are certain ways that AI, we've talked about this before, can be used ethically and legally within your business. There are many, many ways that it cannot be used ethically and legally in your
Yeah.
business.
A minefield full of ways, actually.
Yes, minefield. So, but there, predictive emails, things like that. Absolutely use that for your business. stuff like
Generative ad
that.
copy. Yeah.
Right.
When you were
Two
just
things that come
completely,
to
when you
mind.
scraping the bottom of the barrel of your own creativity, no problem, no shame in putting your blurb into a generator and getting other ideas for creative
Right.
out of it.
For creative ad copy, things like that. So, do things like that. But yeah, just, the whole writing through AI and all that, hard pass, hard no.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a
Same
no.
goes for that cover design. If you're
Oh,
thinking of
yes.
hanging a shingle and giving a shot at that, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine that there's going to be massive restrictions on the use of AI for imagery, especially in the next couple of years as lawsuits work their way through the courts.
Yes.
So don't put yourself in a position where you're going to then become, open to legal liability.
Well, I mean, not only that, but even in an industry as unregulated as ours, it's still pretty self-policing when it comes to
Yeah.
ethics. And you'll find you're hard pressed to grow a business using AI generated images right now,
Right.
unless you're just concealing that fact from your clientele.
Correct.
And
But
then you'll be
yeah.
persona non grata when everyone finds out, because eventually they
Yeah.
will find
They
out.
will. They will find out. So yeah, but find skills. Stay up with the technology. There's all new software that comes out to make your life easier.
Yes.
And, don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to try it out, see if it works for you and if it can benefit you and your business. Because then as you streamline things, make yourself more efficient, you will find that you have more time to write. Will find that you have more time to do some of these extra things
Mm.
that you've been wanting to do. You can either exchange money for money or time for money.
Yep.
And if you are not in the situation where you can exchange money for money, you have to pick time. And that's what it's going to have to take until you can get to that other level.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Well, and even along the way to that level, and
Yeah.
even once you're at that level, I mean, we could do a whole episode on that.
Oh, yeah.
What do you spend your time doing when you are a baby author, so to speak, when you're a newbie?
Mm-hmm.
What do you spend your time doing when you're mid-list? And what do you spend time doing when you are established and have so-called made it? Not
Right.
that, there's any particular measure of what that means, but when you reach a point where your backlist supports you and new releases are just a boon to you financially, and you have
Right.
some minimum brand recognition.
What do you
Because,
do?
well,
Yeah.
I think it would be, obviously, authors who have made it know what it takes to get there and what you spend your time doing along the way. But for authors who are still trying to get there, I don't think, there's a whole lot of time spent thinking about how the business changes and what your attention is going to go to.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're always going to write, but the things you do in addition to writing and editing, they do change along the way, depending
Yeah.
on what your goals are and how you definitively measure success. Some people,
Absolutely.
it's just, number of books sold, or, for others, it's a dollar amount. For others, it's hitting a bestseller list. I mean, and it really depends on what track you've put yourself on. But yeah, it would be interesting to sort of
Right.
compare what a newbie author spends her or his time doing versus what a mid-list author spends her or his time doing.
Absolutely.
Or there.
And we're there. And it depends what you're willing to give up control wise too.
Right.
Because there's that aspect that you have to consider. Some people are they have that tight chokehold on certain tasks and don't want to give it up. And it's very
Yeah.
hard for them to trust others
Yes.
because there are people in this industry that can, take advantage and
For
not do
sure.
things and
For sure.
are unreliable. Blah, blah, blah. So you have to be very careful about that. But when you find that person who is reliable and can do the tasks for you,
Yeah.
it frees up a whole different level of things. So, yeah, what are you doing? Where did you find these
Yeah.
people? How can you? That's a great topic for a future episode.
Well, and like, you talking about people who have maybe a tighter grip on certain things in their business, sort of, I think, plays off of what we do. I prefer to work with authors who are fully coachable and willing to experiment.
Yeah.
If someone is particularly set on continuing to do things a certain way, I find that our partnership and collaboration usually isn't as successful. And that's just like a good way to measure maybe how you run your business going forward. Like if you need things to be done a very specific way, you may not really benefit from working with someone like Heather or someone like me or companies that do what we do. You may need to find a different path to your measure of success.
Right.
And employ people who are closer to you, who, or
Or just
find ways to, yeah, work with what you've already established in terms of how your business operates.
right. You're looking then not for somebody to come in and give you suggestions for your business or give you different methods and different ways that you can,
Yeah,
do your business. At that point, you're looking for somebody to do specific tasks for your business.
right.
So it's a more of an employee situation rather than a consultant
Yes.
situation. And that's something that you have to recognize about your business and where you're at
Hmm.
and things like that. Or maybe you use us for a la carte situations. We
Sure.
have plenty of authors who do that. And
Yes.
that's great. Or you use us for things that aren't our consultancy,
Yeah.
or businesses like us, not just necessarily us.
Right.
But when you're coming into a full term, publicity firm situate a full time
Right.
publicity situation, and you're saying this is what I want to do, how can I get there, and then we give you all of these suggestions and then you're like, no, I don't want to do any of them. That's when that's what Veronica's talking about. It can get
Yeah.
very frustrating, and that just says that we're not in the right place with one another.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's no harm, no foul. It's just we're not in the right
Right.
place.
Your needs, your preferences, and the way you operate your business doesn't really align with what is required for our collaborations to provide the most success.
Yeah,
Like it's already a mismatch out the gate. So,
right. So
and
it
that's just
just
something you have to be aware of too, because you may be someone who can't really delegate a lot in terms of growing and keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like you may have to just find a way to allow yourself more time to work on things that aren't writing in order to get there.
Yeah, delegation is going to be key to any
For sure.
scaling of your
Oh,
business.
for sure.
You are but one person.
Nobody who gets to the top of the mountain does it alone.
Correct. So you have to remember that you are going to have to delegate. You are going to have
Yeah.
to give up some things, and then you have to determine what can I give up, what
Right.
can I delegate to somebody else, and what do I absolutely need to keep for myself.
Yeah.
So these are all things to think about as you're trying to scale your business. But don't think about trying to keep up with the Joneses. Only think about making your business and your brand better.
Yeah.
Because if you keep comparing yourself to other people, you're just going to, comparison is the thief of joy. It's going to steal the joy of any successes that you have out of your business. It's just going to take it.
For sure.
So
Great
so do not
advice.
keep up. Thank you. Do not keep up with the Joneses. Be your own brand.
Yep. You keep your eye on growth as you can incorporate it. And you take the steps that you're ready to take when you're ready to take them.
Absolutely. And I love your idea. I think that in the next, maybe we'll break down a little mini course
Oh
for
yeah.
baby authors, mid lists, and then, the higher end
Uh-huh.
authors. What
For
do you
sure.
do at each stage?
Yep.
And how do you know you're ready to move on to the next stage? What does it look like?
Yeah, for sure.
So until then.